Instagram does it again, folks.
We just got dropped out right in the middle. Guest shortly. Rishi is somebody we've been working with a lot, and we met him through the Mycelium network. We've been working on many interesting things together, and he was telling us a lot about his program, what he's been developing over the last few years, and really what it means to be, on the move. What life is about, where you try to open up space to create more avenues to keep yourself active, and not just active from a very fundamental point of view, but active more from the the space of being completely tuned to your mind and your body and all of that. So we're just going to invite him in again onto the call, just because it got dropped off. Um, yes, I'm inviting Rishi in. And yeah, so he was talking a lot about how, uh, you know, changing the way you see your work. And he's back.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Wow,
we don't
man.
know. We don't know
Yeah,
why
yeah,
this
we're back.
happens every
There's a
time.
glitch in the matrix.
Yes,
Instagram is playing with us today. Never mind.
always.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Yeah.
never mind.
so
Yeah.
so like just picking up from where you were talking about, I think you were
hmm
saying something.
Yeah, I'm saying that, when you walk into the room, you're talking about how when you just finish a workout and you're feeling great and you come into that room and you change
Right.
the entire energy of that place. Imagine if your entire workspace or your office, whole office shows up like that, and then that's so much resonance. And I think
100%.
you,
Right.
yeah, you enable that for us at Nuvedo
Yeah.
through the
Oh,
On the
wow.
Move program, and we
Right.
could we could see that the
Yeah.
difference in the energy levels and the mood in the office was palpable, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, this stuff works, and it is
Yeah.
indeed a game changer when it comes to your productivity and how you approach work. And if enough people in your workplace have the same mindset, it
Correct.
builds accountability, and then finally you have a community who wants to stay fit together, which is amazing.
Exactly. Which is just great. It's like the entire team is trying to lift a rock up together and go up the mountain as compared to a single person trying to do that. Like the
Absolutely.
energy, the feeling, the way that you can move like immovable objects, everything kind of changes. And you know what's crazy? Like it all depends on the simplest things that you do on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Like how you
Absolutely.
can just spend enough time for your own self. And there's a way that every time I get on a client call or anytime there's a discovery call, anyone trying to join for our programs, I always categorize people into three different levels. Number one
Right.
level is that people are suffering with prioritization issue, right?
Hmm.
That they are unable to prioritize their own health pretty much on a daily basis, and they don't know what to do, right? Like, hey, they are giving more and more priority to Instagram scrolling, for an example, or they're giving
Hmm.
more and more priority to work, and then they say that, hey, I'm not going to have this meal right now, and I'm going to go and work. And then they later on figured that the appetite they had for the meal, either they lost it or they lost the mood that they had, right? And then suddenly they're going like all over the place. So prioritization is number one. Number two is organization, where people suffer with not knowing what to do or not what to follow, right?
Right.
But simple practices and simple hacks on a daily basis can really change your game. Number three is
Right.
functionality.
Right.
Now, functionality is entirely dependent on your your practices for the day. If you do a
Right.
few things in your car
Right.
that you want to fix your car properly or you want to work with your car, right? Your functionality of your car is going to go up. But if you're
Absolutely.
not working with your car and you're driving left to right and not giving it enough time, right? Your car is basically just going to be in a different place,
Right. This is
right?
going to
Uh,
take you from point A to B. It's not the best car,
Exactly.
right?
And that's how we can look at life, no? Like from point A to point B is how we want to drive, and we know exactly how our ride or our journey needs to be. Now, here's
Right.
the most beautiful thing. I'll talk about that how having this journey in the first place has changed my life, my mindset, the way that I think. But number two is actually using mushrooms, you know, like
That was my next question, actually.
Nuvedos, like yeah, yeah. I mean, see, this is I think the second bottle which has finished, right? This lion's mane is also like I think lion's mane is the third because I use it a lot on a daily basis.
Right.
and quadriceps up next, right? This has been my favorite for the workouts.
Right.
Now, I'll tell you something. Now, as we were talking about going from point A to point B in a car, right? Now, let's say there are things out there which can essentially modify your car,
Right.
make your car faster.
Right.
Let's say there's a NOS in your car. Like people
Right.
watching, if you have seen like Fast and Furious, this stuff is pretty much like
Is the
NOS.
button that you press and then the car just, yeah, it's
Exactly.
nitrous. The engine's working way better than it did before and it's getting you to
Ex-
point B the best way. Right.
exactly. So this is how I would place, like using mushroom extracts.
Right.
The
Right.
way that I meditate in the morning
Hmm.
with lion's mane has changed me as a person entirely. Like
Okay.
if
So,
I'm speaking to someone from let's say 2 years ago, and if I'm
Hmm.
speaking to them now, they say that, hey man, like why are you sounding so calm? Like what's going on with you? Like every time I hear your voice, I'm actually feeling like, like a monk or something is like talking to me, right? And I'm like, dude, this is insane because I've been meditating, let's say in the past 4 years, without mushrooms, 2 years with mushrooms for almost like a year now, right?
right.
Um, and the difference that I felt by using lion's mane on a daily basis has just changed the game for me entirely, right? The way that I drop in to my Zen mode is different. Shri has commented Zen right on time. Amazing. Secondly, I would love to talk about, like using cordyceps. Now, I come from a CrossFit background. I have been doing, 4 or 5 years of hard, intense CrossFit, and I'm used to that intensity.
So
But
if
after a point,
for all the folks who don't know what CrossFit
It
is,
is,
can you just tell us like
it is
in a few
like an
sentences what CrossFit is and how it's different from the rest of the
stuff that
stuff
we
out there?
usually do. Yeah.
Yeah.
so, well, most people think that CrossFit is like, hey, using like a battle rope or flipping a tire. But CrossFit
Mm.
is defined as constantly varied functional movements performed at high intensity.
Okay.
And when you try to understand that, it's actually everything that you can apply. Right.
Hmm.
Right.
Now, the problem in this world is most people do not know how to program those CrossFit workouts. They think, oh, high intensity is cool. I'm going to go kill myself.
Mm.
Right. Um, for me to learn programming for CrossFit, it was a good 5 years of a journey. And
Mm.
after those five
Right.
years, it was more about performance training for me. So now,
Mm.
after 5 years of CrossFit and in the past 4 years, 9 years of me doing this now, it's been everything about performance training. So how can I increase my mental performance? How can I increase my physical performance? How can I increase my work performance, my output, my creativity, right? That's how I want to design my lifestyle, more or less, right?
Right.
Um, Now, when you try to understand that, you want to understand point A and point B of your own self. Point A is, hey, who you are currently is very important for you to know. Where you come
Right.
from, what your
Yeah.
current assessments are, is the most important thing to know.
Mm.
And then
Right.
there needs to be point B. Now, the problem with the fitness industry that I feel is, or the wellness industry, or whatever it may be, like they quantify fitness to how they look, right?
Correct. It's all about aesthetics.
It's
Yeah.
all about aesthetics, and I feel that is not the best way to quantify your health. Your
Correct.
health can be quantified with various other things. It can be your blood reports. It can be like your the capability of you working out, your capability of running a certain task in a certain amount of time, right?
Right.
So all of these metrics, I call them performance metrics, are a
Right.
lot more important than the way that you look. For an
Hmm.
example, if you're getting sick every 2 months, if you climb like 2 floors and you're getting tired, even if you look good, you're not fit,
Right.
right? That's a whole different metric, right?
Right.
Now, when we understand that, hey, this is the performance mindset that we want to work with, what are the things that we can use on a daily basis? What are the habits? What are the activities that we can constantly have to improve our performance,
Right.
right? Which
Right.
matters to us. Now, as soon as you do that, let's say you're eating in a certain way, you're working out in a certain way, you are designing your work bouts in a certain way, you're meditating, you're doing your breath work. it can be like 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, it can be as minimal as possible. That's when you realize that how your performance actually goes up, more or less.
Right.
Now, the second metric is your feeling, right? The way that you feel on a daily basis. If
Correct.
I'm
Right.
waking up in the morning and if I'm able to be calm, clear, and if I'm meditating with my thoughts not making me go crazy, then I'm feeling great. But
Mm.
if I wake up, I hop on my phone straight up, or if I'm going to rush to office, my mind's going to kill me. Your cortisol is going to go all the way up,
Right.
right? And your functionality pretty much goes down, which takes over your day, which takes over your stress, which takes away like takes over most of the things that you do on a daily basis, affects your sleep, and then you're stuck in this vicious loop, right?
Right.
Right.
So the idea is to break this loop pretty much on a daily basis, right? And build the habits which support our feeling and performance,
And
right?
Right.
especially
And
coming
we
from a lens of an entrepreneur,
Entrepreneur, like
right?
just to
What
kind
you're
of,
saying.
yeah, because I think just to kind of bring that into the context of, us designing this, like all of the things that you mentioned are more also seen with, say, like people like you, me, a small businesses, so many people who are out there who have to really juggle a lot of these aspects. And I think that's, I mean, what kind of, Rishi's been saying is also a large reason why peak kind of has come into play. Like the reason that you
100%.
mentioned that all of the different buckets that people have to juggle and while looking at their health and
Yeah,
while,
and also health from a holistic perspective of not just blood work and parameters and fitness, but also how you feel and how productive you are, right?
yeah,
This conversation is pretty much what led us to even for you
peak.
to build the peak program and for us to work together.
Correct.
So, I mean,
Correct.
just to kind of pause on that and just say, like maybe talk a little bit about what, peak is and how, this whole integration from your experience with using these extracts is going to kind of play into this
Yeah, so
program.
what is peak and who is it for? Can you tell us
Mhm.
about who it's for, how the program is
And
designed?
then maybe we can take some questions from people as well and see,
Mm.
what kind of, what kind of experiences they've had as well with fitness or like with any parts of their life, juggling mental, physical. So maybe just talk a little bit about peak and also integrating how extracts have kind of come into your life through this and also very solely focused on like why entrepreneurs, right? So that would be
100%.
cool for, I mean, I guess, yeah, the people to know what that's all about.
100%. I think when you try to understand what peak means, right? It's like the epitome of your functionality, right? And if that's the top level, top ceiling, the point B or whoever that you want to become of your own self, that has to be a peak metric, right? Now, it just stimulates us as humans in a different way. Like, hey, would you want to be the best version of yourself, right? Would you want peak performance, or would you want to like become kind of like quite literally the best version of yourself, right? Now, if we want to understand that, yet again, we want to understand that on a real use case perspective, right?
Right.
Right.
Now, found who needs peak performance the most when you try to understand that, right? They are the founders who need it,
Yeah.
right? These are the people who are juggling five balls, standing on hot coal, sitting on a unicycle, right?
Right.
They
Apt
are,
description. I
yeah,
relate.
yeah. I've been going through that, right?
Yeah,
So I
yeah, yeah.
exactly feel that. So if there are people, and these are a very specific kind of people, right? Founders, entrepreneurs are a specific kinds of leaders who can envision a certain thing for their company and their people and people around them, and they are influential in nature to achieve their objective, right? So these are the kind of people who are working in seven different mindsets altogether, right? These are the kind of people who are kind of like, struggling maintaining a balance in their life, right?
Right.
They're
Right. Yeah.
struggling emotionally, they're struggling with energy. Their goal is to like um, like run teams. Their goal is to like bring the energy into the room, and their goal is to like be successful with their company, their family, with pretty much everything, right? So I feel why peak for founders? Because they are the people who will benefit the most from this program. Their emotional wellness will get better, their life will feel balanced, right? They will be a lot more sustainable with their energy throughout the day because the practices that we have built around this, right, is to manage your stress, number one, is to like
Right.
work out in a specific way where you have all the flexibility in the world, right? If you
Yeah.
Right.
don't have a gym, if you're traveling, you're taking like 7 flights a month, and we have all these clients, right? Like 35% of our clientele has been founders in the past two
Mm.
years, right? And this is what exactly we have seen with founders, right? Um, what founders will achieve out of this, if I were to answer that, right?
Yeah.
It is so personal, right? That a founder's metrics can't be defined by me as well, right?
I agree
Of
with that, man.
Absolutely.
I
found,
agree.
yeah, of
Because see, if you look at my
hmm,
example, right, when I
right,
started working, when we
Mhm.
started working together,
hmm,
Yeah, you
yeah,
can.
I just want to share this with the folks here. See, I'm
hmm,
someone who's been fairly athletic and fit in the conventional sense, right?
correct,
I could
hmm,
run, I'm lifting weights, I'm hitting the gym, all of that stuff was happening. But
hmm.
when the stress, I didn't even know I was stressed, man. See, that was the thing, right? I started
Correct.
losing weight. I developed IBS, almost lost 10 kilos
Oh my
in a
God.
matter of few months.
Hmm,
Yeah, and you remember this when we're talking about it. And
yeah.
that's when
That,
this
by
whole
the
thing of,
way, for an ectomorph is not a good thing, losing weight
yeah,
and getting
not at
IBS.
all.
An ectomorph,
Exactly,
Darshit, is an
man.
ectomorph by, I'm just trying to give like a small explanation
Yeah,
to
yeah,
uh,
definitely.
people who are watching this, that people who are thin, lanky, and have like long limbs, right? A longer femur bone, they have different characteristics in their body. And yeah, please, sorry to interrupt. Please go on.
Yeah, man, and as someone like who, right, like you said, who struggles to put on weight, even though I was following a regime, I was eating well, I was losing weight, and I was very stressed. So going to the gym and working out and running is not enough to stay, what do you say, have a all
Stress-free life,
round,
yeah,
yeah,
or a holistic lifestyle.
wellness,
Correct.
yeah, holistic
Wellness.
lifestyle. Yeah,
Yeah.
essentially that. And
Mm-hmm.
peak sort of the discussions with you sort of made me realize that
Correct.
it is not just about going to the gym, lifting weights, and running. It's not the stats. It's about how you feel
100%.
also,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. It's all about how you feel. And the problem is that most people will work out so much that they don't know how to balance that as well.
Right.
Their central nervous system is pretty much fried. Imagine being like fried looking at workouts as a solution. You go to the gym and you see like trainers who are unfortunately not so well educated, or especially in a country like India when there are like so much population, right? Unfortunately, they don't know how to program workouts and what exactly to give you. And then people go online, they look at all these reels and they're like, okay, hey, I'm gonna like finally, like follow this reel and try this out. So they find themselves in this entire loop of things, right? Which is like, oh, I'm getting stressed from here, I'm getting stressed from here, I'm getting stressed from here as well. So the solutions, in fact, start becoming a problem when you don't have a structured approach towards your holistic lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
A whole zoomed out view of your activities, your mental state, your emotional well-being, your physical state, your workouts needs to be looked at very much differently.
And for someone who's in it, you almost always need somebody outside of this to come and give you that perspective because you're too deep into your business or that lifestyle of hustle.
100%.
That you
And
can't
hustle
Correct.
step
culture
out
is
of it.
and hustle culture is
It's real
Hmm.
no, it's not about
and
it's real.
celebrated
It's celebrated,
for some
right?
reason.
Yeah,
It's
man.
celebrated.
Put in
Unfortunately, it is.
sleep 4 hours, eat junk, but get that money on the table, get that funding. But
Yeah.
guys, finally, at
Yeah,
the end of the day, that money, that whatever you're going to get through funding, you're going to spend 10 times more on that just to
on your
solve all
health
the health
issues.
issues.
And that's kind of why, I
Exactly.
mean, a lot of reasons why even, making these extracts, even for us in Nuvedo, was for us to really have it and kind of be, better versions of ourselves and like feel better
Hmm.
through it. So
Hmm.
even, a subliminal need of kind of creating things and building on something that you want in your life. And I think that's something that I relate to, a lot with what you're doing as well, because it's something that you wanted to live by and you wanted life surrounding that so that you feel better. And so your passion is an extension of that. And in many ways, to feel better and like, get those, you feel the best version mentally and breathe better, we created these extracts kind of to just ensure that we have our own supply,
And not just that, like the point that we want to say
Say,
here is
yeah,
that in isolation, none of these things work.
possible. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
it
because you
doesn't
take
work.
the
Yeah.
extract, yeah, just because you take mushroom extract is not going to solve your problems. If you want to feel that energy, you need
To
to,
run or like do something or
You
yeah,
need
like
to
move
which
your
which
body.
brings us
pair it
to
with something. Yeah.
yeah, which
Yeah.
brings us to the next question, which is how do you use these extracts? Like you were talking about the meditation bit, but let's go a little deeper. How are these extracts sort of integrated into your routine,
Yeah.
and what changes have you noticed? What can people expect?
So I'll tell you what. Um, Firstly, that people buying new running shoes, right? Or let's say we give running shoes to a certain person, does not mean that person is going to run better, right? Or does not
Mm.
mean that person is going to go and run by themselves, right? The idea is to understand that anytime you take controls over your own practices, right? You can only use things as a supplement to that to help you. For an example, if you are already a runner and you use better running shoes, it will help your running, right? But
Right,
buying a supplement and then kind of expecting that my life is sorted is not going to help, right?
right,
So, like you said, both of these practices should work in together, right? Now, what happens is like for my routine, more or less, in the morning itself, I wake up, I do my breath work just to like calm down a little bit as soon as I'm up, right? Even when, um, like I'm feeling a bit groggy or whatever, I just go straight into my mat, pop like, the lion's mane. I take like 1 ml of it, so zero point 0.5 and zero point 0.5, so like 2 drips, right? And I start with a specific meditation. So the idea is to put your senses into a certain focus direction. Now, this may mean different things to different people. Now,
right,
number one can be putting attention to sound, right? Number two can be putting attention to what you're sitting on or what you're feeling. Number three is putting attention to your breath. Now, there are so many different mental functions, right? This is something that we play around in the program as well, where we want to tap different senses on different days. And lion's
Right.
mane is something which helps you with neuroplasticity, right?
Right.
Neurogenesis of like, like increasing um your habit building state to make it like super
right,
easy for
right.
people,
Easy.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your ability to do this again the next day in a much better way is done by your neurons, right?
Right.
absolutely.
Now as soon as I understood that about lion's mane, I started building practices around it. So one day I would just do
Right,
sound meditation. One day I would just do emotional and understand my thoughts kind of a meditation. One day I would do like a visualization,
Mm.
right? There are so many different practices that you can build with your lion's mane extract, right? Similar with your cordyceps, right? The way that it works with cordyceps is that it will always help you increase your oxygen intake.
right,
It's not a coffee replacement, right?
right, right.
It's your way to
Absolutely.
quit coffee forever. It's your way to have an unlimited battery pack, right? Now, if you want to build
Perfect.
an unlimited battery pack, you need to do things to increase your battery size, right?
Right,
Right.
Now, if your battery size is VO2, right, which is your body's ability to hold oxygen, then cordyceps is something which helps you increase your VO2
right.
pretty much over a period of time. Now, when you try
Right.
Mm,
to understand how you can increase your oxygen supply, I'm gonna try not going into like technicalities of energy systems, right? But
mm,
there is a way similar to how we spoke about the brain to stimulate in different way. You need to stimulate different energy systems. People need to understand that when you're sprinting, you're working with stored energy. You're not
Right.
breathing. It's a different energy system. When you're doing a marathon, you're breathing constantly. It's a different energy system.
Right.
One energy system is anaerobic in your system, stored
Right.
energy,
Right.
right? Other two energy systems are oxygen based. So our
Right.
entire
Aerobic.
life
Correct.
is dependent on oxygen, the
Yeah.
way that we hold
Yeah.
oxygen, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
So as soon as I understood this, pretty much like, I mean, 10 years ago, I knew about this, but as soon as I started using cordyceps with this, right, I started stimulating my, like energy systems in a much different way. So I
Hmm.
would
Mm.
go do a sprint, right, rest for this amount of time. I would go do a long distance run, rest for this amount of time. I would do interval based training,
Like
right?
hit,
Interesting.
And I would,
like hit,
yeah,
something
yeah,
like a
like
hit.
Interesting. Yeah.
like HIIT, but
Hmm.
then yet again, you need to work on things differently, right? Right over there.
Right.
It can't be
Absolutely.
the same HIIT that you do.
Right.
Correct.
Now, what happens with cordyceps is this is the most craziest part that after a month or let's say 4 to 6 weeks of using that, my VO2 levels went up by 4 points. So I was
Wow.
at 40, I went to 44. Now, when I'm at 44, my heart rate is not going up over a certain level in my
Right. Yeah.
HIIT
Yeah.
program,
I see the same thing,
right?
man. I see the
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
So it's just insane. I'm like, why am I not getting tired? And I give this to like a bunch of our OTM clients as well, right? Like, and they are like, dude, like I'm not getting tired anymore. My endurance, my stamina, everything has changed,
And
right?
it's not the same way that caffeine works on
Yeah.
your endurance.
Just to add that
Yeah,
on.
it's not like it's cutting away your
100%,
feedback. Yeah, right. Could you give a
100%.
small like for the
Anik,
viewers and what do you say a
Anik.
small like example of how cordyceps works differently from caffeine because this is something that we get a lot.
So let's try to imagine something. Let's say caffeine is something which is a stimulant which increases your heart rate,
Right.
right? People mostly get jitters, right? People with,
Hmm.
okay, let's just say someone who's used to coffee, they
Hmm.
probably won't get jitters, but people who are new to coffee, they'll get jitters, their heart rate is up. Let's try to imagine what happens when your heart rate is up, right? Your oxygen systems are already going up. Your heart rate is already using all the oxygen,
Right.
right? You
Right.
have a coffee, you try to go for a workout, your heart rate is already up, you're already like going nuts, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So this is not an ideal way to build an energy system for your own self where you're depending on stimulants. Same with
Correct.
pre-workouts,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Right.
Using
Right.
energy with your pre-workouts, which is there, okay, it's going to give you energy. It's an instant boost of energy, but it's not helping you create energy with oxygen in your system,
Right. It's
right?
not an internal
Cordyceps,
mechanism.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So when you like start working with an internal mechanism, like, hey, like in a car, my fuel tank is getting bigger slowly and steadily,
Right.
right? In your
Right.
Mm.
in your
Right.
with your coffee, it's like you are just like putting in something
Nice.
like a NOS into a max rev and you're trying to kill yourself, right? People also get burnt out because of that. Now,
Yeah.
coming to the
Right.
next
Yeah.
Right.
part, right? Let's say you do a full-blown workout, right?
Mhm.
And you've had coffee, you've had pre-workouts. What's the worst thing that you feel? You will feel it 2 hours later when it drops,
Right.
right?
A crash.
It's when your entire energy systems crash because now you created energy out of nowhere. What's going to happen? It's going to drop, right?
Right.
Um, and that actually gets you to perform in a different way or feel in a different way because then suddenly you're tired. And for most
Right.
people in
Right.
the morning, they have this coffee straight up, which creates acidity in the gut, more or less.
Mm.
Around
Yeah.
afternoon time, they are done. They're like, oh, I need another coffee to function. So
Right.
they are not actually building systems to improve their health. Actually, they're destroying their health, right?
Correct.
Acidity leads to inflammation. Inflammation leads to lower metabolic health. Lower metabolic health leads to everything around your insulin sensitivity, your insulin resistance, your all the issues that you can possibly think of, your cholesterol to your
Right.
blood sugar to your blood pressure, everything comes from there, right?
Right.
Coming to the third part, I would say that why most people struggle in the evening and they want a stimulation in front of them. They want to keep scrolling or they want to watch something or they want to like just take themselves away from their mind, which is the biggest problem in the world right now,
Doom
right? That people are
scrolling.
constantly wired,
Yeah,
doom scrolling.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
and
yeah.
why do people doom scroll in the first place? Number one is there's not enough dopamine in the system. They want more
Absolutely.
dopamine,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Once they have more and more dopamine, like from this, your body is unable to create more dopamine,
Right,
right? So you go into a
Correct.
dopamine depletion state,
right.
right? You
Right.
go
So your
into a
body's
dopamine
reward mechanisms are like
yeah,
haywire.
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy how it works, right? So your dopamine is down, and suddenly you're left alone with your thoughts. What happens? You are overworking with your thoughts, you're overthinking, you can't sleep. This is 80% of the calls that I get on, with
Absolutely.
Mm.
first clients who want to join a program from OTM, that, hey, I can't unwind, or I need to kill myself to go to sleep. It's
Mm.
either these two things, right?
Correct.
You
Right.
kill
Or
yourself to
drink.
go to sleep or drink. On the weekends, you have to numb yourself out, and in the morning, you're just like gone. So I would not like, I still believe in like moderation of using things here and there. That is fine.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
But if your workouts, your nutrition, your movement, your mental health is in place with some practices, you will be able to like balance well through it, right? You will
Right.
Mm.
be able to like live a life which is fulfilling or energetic or
Right.
sickness free in nature, right? Now,
Absolutely.
what is the most important thing that we prescribe to people from OTM is a wind down routine. Every
Hmm.
person is asked to do a wind down routine. Get your white light out, get your phone out of the way, right? Keep your phone away from you, get some reishi, or drink like something like a warm tea with like chamomile or lavender or like ashwagandha in it, or reishi and lavender and ashwagandha. That's like a beautiful combination that you all have, right? Right there. So what happens then? You are actually able to reduce your cortisol levels
Mm.
using
Yeah.
this.
Right.
You
Yeah.
are actually able to like relax your central nervous system, right? Now, here's what's paradoxical, right? You have this reishi tea, right? And you're chilling on your phone. So what's
Yeah.
gonna happen?
It's not
Yeah.
gonna
It's not gonna
It
work.
won't work.
Right.
Yeah, it won't
Yeah.
work.
So what we do is we give people yoga nidra or non-sleep deep rest protocols with it. So what
Right.
happens
Right.
instantly that you're working hand in hand with a certain supplement and you're building a practice for yourself where you're
Right.
not constantly stimulating, right? I
Right.
would say the most important three things for any person to improve their functionality is to focus on unwinding at night,
Yeah.
right? Is to energize yourself in the morning, and is to manage your stress using something um, um, like a meditation routine or a breathwork routine and pair it up with lion's mane. So you can build that
Right.
habit again and again, right? These are the three most basic things. And on
Right.
top of that, you can always add more and more things. I don't want to spill everything out of peak program
Right.
here.
No,
So
no,
again,
yeah, that's what.
coming back to peak, if this sounds
Yeah,
fascinating for you
yeah.
guys, if you're an entrepreneur who wants to
Hmm.
achieve their peak performance, you know where to go. Rishi is the guy to speak to. On the move peak program is what you need to do. Just putting this out there again. If you're an entrepreneur who wants to unleash their peak performance, if you're
Hmm.
looking to be the best version of you, you are looking at the person who can get that done for you. So
Let's
what's the
have
next step, man?
let
What would be the next
let's
step if
have a
someone?
conversation about it. Would be
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's
yeah,
next
what.
step. Like let's
yeah,
chat.
yeah.
Like
So just, I mean, oh, is it just
let's
me? Or, let's.
I think the audio
Yeah, I think the
is
audio is good. We can hear.
okay, so
But maybe we'll take like a few questions,
does
a
anybody have
handful
any
of questions,
questions
just to kind of
about the peak
yeah,
program?
about
yeah.
anything
Any
that.
any any
Any
questions that you
fitness,
may have?
mushroom, supplements related questions? Otherwise, we can
Nutrition,
slowly, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
Let's see
everybody
what
who's
comes through.
listening, yeah, Peak is a program that we've designed together on the move, Rishi and us Nuvedo, integrating
Mushroom extracts
to
into a fully, physical, mental, and holistic approach towards being the best version of yourself.
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
he's nicely put, Prithvi,
yeah. So,
And the way
Yeah.
that you can tap into this is go to either of our link in bios. The link is right there. Just fill out the
Mm-hmm.
form and then you can
Mm-hmm.
expect a call from the from the OTM team,
Correct.
and then they
You'll
take it
expect a
forward. Yeah,
call
you have
from
the
me
best
actually. I
minds.
will, because I want to speak to founders, like who are in
Right.
the same boat, and they want to answer this question, which is, what is that something that you can do on a daily basis to grow every day as a human, physically, mentally, emotionally, and holistically, where you become the best version of yourself, pretty much. If you are looking
Right.
to answer that question, trying to find that framework for yourself, like, hey, what are the things that I can do today, 1 year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, we will have that conversation. And I'd love to, build that conversation. It's like why I do this, it's actually because I feel that each person is so unique, and I come with, like, let's say 10 years of doing this now. I feel even after 10 years, I'm unable to kind of, give them a solution in a second, because
Yeah,
in all reality is it does not
that
exist.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
doesn't
If
exist.
45
anyone
minute
tells
call,
you,
No, that
yeah.
yeah,
doesn't
if
exist.
anyone tells you that they have a solution for everybody, then guys,
And and I think I remember when
Yeah.
I had the first call with Rishi, that was also one of the things you
Hmm.
said.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
really believe that as well. Like even in terms of these, even the supplements that we create, right?
Hmm.
People come and ask us, "Will this make me mega productive?" I'm like, "Boss, if you don't do anything, if you're just going to take it and sit at home, it's not going to change anything.
100%.
Like you have to be able."
100%.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think even to create habits surrounding it is something that is super important. I
just
just
two
saw questions.
questions.
Yeah, I
One
just
Yeah.
is how do you join the program?
yeah
Just summarizing it again.
yeah
So Peak
Hmm.
program is for entrepreneurs. Anybody who's looking, who has a stressful lifestyle, who's like Rishi's words, juggling five balls, sitting on a unicycle,
and on
going through
cold.
a bed of burning coal. If you are that person, and you want to optimize your life for peak performance, for the best version of yourself, this is the program for you. And how
This is
you
not the
can
time.
Excellent.
join is go to our link in bio, either on the move or Nuvedo. The link is right there. You fill up the form, and then you can expect a consultancy call
Rishi.
from Rishi and his team, who will,
I'm going to do
yeah,
it. I've
amazing,
asked the sales team to actually step out of this. That those three
amazing.
people team is not on this one. They are on our other programs. I'm like, hey, I want to talk to founders. I mean, if you're a
Right.
founder, I'll be in that conversation. If you're not a
Sure.
founder, I probably won't. Um, but I imagine that founder to be something like a Rubik's cube of, like, different levels that I'm trying to solve and find
Exactly.
that framework to increase their functionality, productivity, creativity, efficiency. So
Right.
that's the Rubik's Cube that we're going to try to solve on that conversation, and then
Yeah.
see how we can design and implement that into their lives.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Taking
And
the
the
next
last question, I
question,
think we'll just take that one.
I think I can answer this.
Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
think about mushroom coffee,
Yeah. I
Yash?
think both Rishi and I love coffee, and I think I have a
Yeah.
love-hate relationship with it because there was a time when I was having 4, 5 cups, but I realized that I think I had to go to the extreme to understand what it was doing and
Hmm.
sort of rethink my relationship with it. So if you're somebody who's looking to turbocharge your coffee shot, there's nothing better than mushroom coffee. But read the label, guys. So you have to understand what's in your coffee. Like if you're into coffee, if you're trying to cut down, if you want to minimize and stick to that 1 cup, mushroom coffee is really good, especially one with lion's mane because caffeine usually you can start feeling the effects in 20 minutes and it after a point it starts wearing off and by that time the focus and the mental clarity of the lion's mane would have sort of come in the background when which means that you can't really feel the crash, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
most of the coffee, the really good mushroom coffee out there is made using Arabica beans, which have almost half the caffeine content of Robusta beans, right?
Correct.
So
Hmm.
lion's mane coffee is a really good coffee alternative if you're looking to cut down your coffee consumption or trying to look for a healthier alternative because
But
A, it can
so
reduce your caffeine intake, yeah,
sorry,
and
I'm very sorry to interrupt. Hold on a second. If
yeah, yeah,
you're
sure.
if you're actually mixing lion's mane with coffee, right, and actually if you're stressing yourself with whatever that you're trying to do with that energy in coffee, you are actually building neuroplasticity to stress yourself.
That's a very interesting
That's a
perspective,
very
man. Yeah,
interesting
yeah,
Did
it's
you
very
did
perspective.
interesting
you think
perspective.
about that? Because
Yeah,
lion's mane is
I have
such a
not thought about
strong,
that.
yeah, lion's mane is a strong extract and stimulant where you need to respect it in a certain way, right?
Hmm.
Now, let's say if I'm doom scrolling, having my coffee, and that's with lion's mane, or if I'm stressed out, I don't think that's going to be nice. And if my heart
Yeah.
rate is up with it, that means that neurologically you're creating something which is not a nice feeling for yourself. Those are
Right.
my
Correct.
thoughts. So yeah,
No, no, I
depends on
That's an
completely
practice.
agree,
interesting
man. I
point. Yeah.
completely agree. Finally,
Hmm.
what you do with the tool will define if it's good for you or bad for you, right? The tool
Correct.
inherently is not good or bad, right?
Correct.
So yeah, if you're
100%.
looking for something a healthier alternative to your regular coffee, if you are looking to cut down your consumption from 4 or 5 cups to maybe a cup, I think this is great. But a point to ask yourself is why are you drinking coffee in the first place and what is it doing for you, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
But
that's the question I would
yeah,
ask. Yeah.
I think we've covered a
Covered a
lot
lot,
of stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
on the life. It was an amazing
100%.
one,
Yeah.
and it was so fun and super nice to hear, all the
Hmm.
perspectives. Thank you, everybody, for the conversations and the
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
questions, and also
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah,
so
thanks
much.
Rishi for doing this. This is amazing.
No, no,
And we
lovely.
look
We should
forward
do
to
this
a lot
often,
of
I think.
yeah, we look forward to all the community members coming on board sooner in to integrate into this program, not just from a point of view of not just from a point of view of um, working out or exercising, but also just to kind of make a more holistic version of your life. So I think excited to do this with Rishi and
Finally, it's happening,
excited
man.
to launch this officially.
Yeah.
Maybe have a lot many more interesting events and collaborations as we go forward.
Yeah.
100%. We were
So
thinking of a retreat, like a founders
Retreat.
retreat.
Yeah, that's the next
yes,
one on in the
Yeah,
pipeline.
lot
yeah.
of
Yeah.
we'll keep that.
Yeah.
But
Thanks,
yeah,
guys. This
thank
Thank
was
you
you
so
so
great.
much.
much.
This
Thank you,
100%.
everybody.
Namaste,
Namaste,
everybody.
everyone, and thank
Namaste,
you for
as we say.
joining.
Yeah,
Thank
Yes.
you,
namaste.
thank you.
All
Good
right.
night.
Good night.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.